Welcome to Joe's Tutorial Part 8, tailored for the Live from Studio B project at Holyoke Community College. Okay, so we just went through our introduction. We've got our intro set, the beginning of our timeline looks pretty good, the way the audio comes in. And now we'll focus on just kind of getting down to the cutting and cross-dissolving and all the ways that we can transition between shots. Okay, so we have our beginning here. Our title goes away as the performance begins. And this shot looks fine, but you can always make a different choice about that. The way that we've organized this and synced everything, it's been a tedious process, but now we can really have a little more fun with editing, knowing that things are in pretty good order. So the way that I do this, and there's lots of ways to do it if you have a different way that you prefer, but I prefer to just simply use the hierarchical stack of these 3 camera angles to my advantage. And the fact that they're all synced means I can toggle between them at any point. If there's a really nice shot to work with, or there's a transition that would be really nice to do, I can stack them and work in that way. Okay, so let's say as Pat begins, I want to make a cut. Again, I'm not dragging these clips themselves, or else they'll get out of sync, but rather using this trimmer feature, okay, in my arrow selection tool. Okay, so I'll hit play here. As Pat song begins, maybe as the voice begins, I might want to cut to a different shot. Let's see what's available. Not a romantic, wants it all, but she's got nothing to give. Okay, so what I often do is this becomes very musical, how you edit, because we're thinking about rhythm, we're thinking about the pace and the style of the song. If the style of the song is such that it's very dynamic and loud and fast and has a lot of changes to it, things like that, that's going to affect the way we edit. We might have more cuts for that. We might use more just clean cuts between shots, versus a song that's maybe a little quieter or slower. Maybe there's more opportunities for cross dissolves in a song like that, but it all goes down to the feeling. So you have to really tune in to the performance and find the right moments that are going to be really dynamic to change the viewer's point of view. Okay, so let's try right here. I'm not sure what's happening in this shot quite yet, but if I drag it over, we can see. Okay, so this camera happens to be trained down onto the guitar at this point. Maybe I'd rather stay with a headshot. The video just started, and I want to get a little more detail of Pat singing before I start to get into other kinds of shots. So I'm going to drag that away. I'll bring it back in later as I need it. But this camera too might work. Let's see what we have. Okay, so it looks like that shot might be a little blurry at this point. As an editor, we're always working with what we have. So as precise as we might want to be in the live shooting, there's always going to be little problems. There's always going to be a shot that doesn't quite work for the moment in the song. And that's why we have 3 to work with. And that's also why we always have what's called the master shot. This camera is the widest perspective of the set, and it doesn't move. Okay, whereas camera 2 and camera 3, we have a little more flexibility and style. It might be panning across, it might be zooming in. Camera 1 is the master shot that's reliable, and we can always cut back to it if no other shot is really working. We have that to work with. Okay, so let's say I'll turn that one back on, and it's a little blurry. I might in a true edit, I might kind of avoid that for a little while until that focus gets sharp, but let's just see how it looks for now. So if I kind of scroll back, allow the performance to progress, and just see how a cut feels. Okay, so that focus resolved really quickly. So maybe I want to find another beat in the song slightly further on that I want to use that cut for, because it's kind of nice. So let's see.
She lives in a mansion but doesn't like dancing.
Okay, so why don't we use that moment? So I paused it. I often use just, go by ear and use the beat of the song to decide where that next frame wants to be. So I'm going to trim that down to that moment. I also notice that this shot appears to pan away from Pat at that point. I don't know, it might not work, but let's see. We'll go from there. Okay, maybe we could use that.
She's a few years younger than me, but wise beyond her years. And I thought we'd be forever, but it...
Okay, let's say now that that hard cut was fine, and notice how it works. It works by simply stacking. So Premiere is hierarchical, so a visual clip that's in a track above another is always going to override it. So it's at 100% opacity. It's simply blocking out camera one. So you can see how theoretically in most cases camera one might never actually have to be cut, simply because it's whenever we want to cut from it, we're simply blocking it with a track that is above. Okay, so that works effectively in that way. I'm going to demonstrate more of a cross dissolve. So let's say right about this point, roughly in terms of the beat, I might need to adjust it a little bit, but let's say right about there, I do want this shot to emerge. And maybe now I want to cross dissolve it rather than a hard cut. Let's see. Okay, so if I play from here, it's kind of nice as a hard cut, but let's see, I'll do it as a cross dissolve just to demonstrate and see how that looks. Okay, so adding keyframes, this gets a little more complicated, and the more you play with it, the more you'll get comfortable and get used to it. But here are some basics. So if I click on camera 3, notice that in the visual clips, we have a white line that's cutting through the clip horizontally. And also notice that in the audio clip, we have the same thing. So they are identifying different things, of course. One is visual. So this line here in the visual clips is identifying opacity, which defaults to 100% opacity. In the audio clip, whenever you see that white line, that's the decibel level, that's the volume. So we'll get to that later. But for the visual clips, this opacity line is really useful. And so we can be a little more creative and loose about how we create cross dissolve by using this line. There are also ways to be super precise about it. So here's a couple ways to approach it. Okay, so if I want to say that by about this point, okay, I'm a minute in, by this point in the camera 3 clip, I want it to be at fully 100% opacity, but have cross dissolved from camera 2 into camera 3 for this duration. So I've left some of that clip open. So when the cross dissolve begins versus when it ends. Okay, so what I'm going to do is add a keyframe right here within my sequence. Okay, and I'll show you where that's represented in my effect controls area, which we'll have to start to get friendly with as we get more complicated with cross dissolves and other effects and things like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use my arrow selection tool, hover over that white horizontal line, and hold down on a Mac, it's my Command key. And I'm going to notice that when I hold down on that and I'm hovering over the line in the correct spot, my arrow tool turns into a little plus sign. So what that is telling me is that I can add a keyframe at that point. I need to add a keyframe along a line of an effect. So as long as I'm hovering over that opacity line, I have the opportunity to click and add a keyframe. So I'll show how that works. I'll click while I'm holding Command. And now I've got that nice little blue dot. So that is my keyframe. What a keyframe does is it holds on to a piece of data in an effect. So at this moment, that little blue dot is holding on to the data of 100% opacity, meaning at that point, the clip will be 100% opacity. Notice if I'm selected on the correct clip, white bounding box around camera 3. If I go over to my effect controls window and take a look at my opacity, I'll zoom here. That keyframe is also represented here. Okay, so that little diamond is a keyframe. Notice that the toggle animation button is blue, which means there is a keyframe within that effect on that clip. Okay. This is really good to know about because you can be a little more precise, and you can also undo everything up here. If you want to get rid of an effect entirely, you can simply reset the effect using, for instance, this reset parameter key, or you can select a keyframe up here and just simply hit delete if you'd like. So I'll try that. Hit delete. Okay, so this opacity is still set to blue because an effect has been placed on it. However, there are no keyframes there. If I don't want that effect to be active, I can simply click on that toggle animation button and then it's gone. It's just at default 100% opacity as usual. Okay, but I do want a keyframe there. I can make it down here again if I want to by holding the command key and clicking. Or I can make it up here. So I'll show up here as well. So if I am right, my playhead is represented here in the timeline sequence as well as up here in the effect controls. So the nice thing about the effect controls is that it's giving you the information for only the clip that's selected, not the entire sequence. Okay, so if I wanted to get to the very beginning of that clip, I can do that down here by sliding and kind of trying to get it to snap to that point. Or just to be really quick and precise about it, up here in my effect controls, if I click and drag that one, it doesn't go any further than the first frame of the clip because it's identifying only the clip's parameters, not the entire edit. Okay, so I'm going to go back to roughly that same location where I was. Right about there, we want this clip to emerge at 100% opacity. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to add a keyframe right here instead of down here because it's just simply two ways to do exactly the same thing. So I'll click on that toggle animation button and that automatically creates a keyframe. Notice it's represented down in my sequence as well. And it's holding on to 100% opacity. Okay, so if I want to alter this, and if I click and drag my playhead to the very first frame of my clip, no change has happened because this keyframe is representing 100% opacity, and I have not added a second keyframe, which would represent a different percentage. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm right at the beginning of the clip. I know I'm at the very first frame, which is good. So I want this clip in this frame to start at 0 opacity and rise up to 100%. Okay, so I'm going to add a new keyframe right there. To do that, since I've already established my keyframes over here, the toggle animation button is blue. I can use this option right here. It's in between the two arrows to add or remove a keyframe from that spot. If there's no keyframe there, if I click, I will add one. Okay, so I click. I've just added a second keyframe. So see, it's represented over here. And it's still at 100% opacity because I haven't changed it. Okay. Notice too, while I'm here, that we've got these arrow buttons. You can move between keyframes, kind of skip between keyframes, which is really useful, especially if you're trying to sync two effects at once. Let's say you want, as a clip fades up to 100% opacity, it also has a blur effect that is resolving over the course of that transition. So sometimes it's really useful to have these tools up in the effect controls window because you can really organize your effects and where they occur. Okay, okay. So I'll click the arrow button back to my first. The second keyframe I created, but it's the first one in the clip. And I want this to actually be 0% opacity, not 100. So I'll change that. 0 as I hit enter. Notice that I now have a little diagonal line in my clip or in my sequence down here to indicate that I'm going from 0 opacity fading up to 100. And if I open up my opacity menu here, I've got even more information that I can see, and I can tell that the fade is working. So I'm going to hit play just to show how that works. Okay, so notice in real time the opacity percentage is increasing up until it resolves at the second keyframe. So it's really cool job that Premiere has, or task that it has. Keyframing applies to almost any effect that you might want. So this is how you animate. This is how you create sort of animated or any kind of customized, tailored types of effects within Premiere. again, you can do this all right down here in your sequence, or you can start to get to know how to do it up here as well. Notice, for instance, in my color effect that's already been placed on, I have the option to add toggle animation buttons, add keyframes to those as well. Let's say I wanted the saturation to start down at 0, black and white shot, and fade up to 100% saturation. So black and white to color, things like that. So I can begin to play around, see what's possible when I start to get comfortable with keyframing and how I want it to work. For most cases in these edits, it's really useful for these cross dissolve effects. And I'll also show you how to do this as more of a drop-on effect. There's one more feature to these keyframes that's important to know about, which is that you're not stuck with this perfectly linear line in between these two keyframes, but you can bend that line. Okay, so if I click down here in the information that's available to me and grab this handle, notice that I'm able to start, it's called a Bezier curve. I'm able to use this handle to affect the curve of that line. So as a general rule of thumb, it all depends on how it looks to you, and it's totally your choice. If you like the linear transition, the linear crossfade, to me it tends to look a little bit mechanical, and using a simple S curve of some sort makes things feel a little more fluid and a little bit more organic as the two clips are fading between each other. So I've accessed that up here in the effect controls window. And just see how that looks. Go to the beginning. Okay, so the clip begins to emerge. It doesn't look too robotic in how it fades out. Something kind of a little bit smoother, a little bit more pleasant about that. Okay. Again, the same thing is down here. If I wanted to, I can affect those features as well. So let's say I'll do it on the other end of this clip. Let's say right about here, I'm going to cut it. Okay, so I'll grab my razor tool and cut. Back to my selection tool. Notice that I'm not going to click and drag this out of the way because I'll get out of sync, but I'll use this trimmer that's available because I split the clip into two. I can trim it away, and I can always bring it back if I want that clip to come back in sooner. Okay, so here I just made another cut between camera 3 back down to camera 2, which is the next one that is visible there. Might not be just the right precise cut. Maybe we need to think more about the beat of the song that's happening there, but for the sake of demonstration, we've got another one there. So I will put on a keyframe to fade this out just to show how to do the same thing we did up here in effect controls down here in the timeline. Okay, so if I hold down Command while I'm hovering over this opacity line and click, notice that I've got a new keyframe, and I want to make another one somewhere close to the end here. So I'll click again, and now I can click and drag. So I'm doing exactly the same thing I did up here in the effect controls window. I'm doing it right down here more, a little bit more kind of intuitively in my sequence. Okay, and notice too that because that clip has been adjusted based on Bezier curve, those handles are still available to me down here as well. If I want that to be more of an S curve, it's a little tedious because everything is so small. You can zoom in if you want to, and you can zoom vertically as well if you want to get a little better sense of what that is. But it all depends on what's comfortable for you. If this is a little bit too tedious and small to work with, just start to get used to working up here. Okay. So takeaways, the cross dissolve is really useful. Hard cuts between these shots is great too, depending on the style and what the performance is seeming to call for. And we progress from there and think about the kind of style that we're going for. Lastly, before I end, I'm just going to show you how to add more of a canned cross dissolve if that feels more accessible to you than the more manual keyframing that I've just demonstrated. Okay, so let's say camera 3 here, I want that to crossfade up again, fade in. What I'm going to do is go up to Window and change my workspaces to Effects. Okay, And you can also do that right here at the top of the Premiere interface. All that does is give me a really accessible effects browser here because what I want to look for, I can either click and search for it, or I can just scroll down and notice. I'm going to give myself a little more room for this window as well. Notice that I've got a whole folder called Video Transitions. You know, I'm one who might say that these tend to be a little cheesy, but play with them and see what's interesting to you and what works for your editing style. Specifically, I'm going to click down on Dissolve, and we've got a really simple cross dissolve, essentially the same thing we've been doing manually. We can do a little bit more drag and drop and see how it looks. Okay, so I'm selected on this next instance of camera 3, and I want to have this cross dissolve onto it. I believe I can click and drag. Yep. I can drag and place it right at the beginning frame of that clip, and I can customize it as well. Okay, so if I zoom way in, notice this little cross dissolve effect has been dropped onto that clip. I believe it's over here somewhere as well. Let's see. I'll minimize all this stuff. No, it's not. Okay. We can find it by going like this. So we click on that cross dissolve. It's now an item itself that can be customized. So we can click on that cross dissolve and access all of its properties that we might want to affect. The effect controls window up here, we have the same S curve that we created manually. We can use these sliders and points to adjust that way as well. If we want this cross dissolve to be longer than the default length, we can click and drag it. Okay, so again, I'm not changing the clip itself or dragging the clip itself. I'm dragging the cross dissolve effect that has been placed on that clip. Okay, this might feel more cumbersome to you, or it might feel more accessible. So I just wanted to point that out, that it's another way to do cross dissolving if it feels better to you. I'm going to go back to my all panels view and see how that looks. Let's see. So I'm going to simply fade camera 3, and it's going to, of course, fade with camera 2, which is below it. Okay. Okay, so that cross dissolve works just fine, right? And I can go into these properties and customize it a little bit more, make it feel a little bit more precise to my creative choices there. Okay, and if we don't like it, we can select that cross dissolve itself and hit delete, and we're back to square one. Okay.